Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today we have a Wii knife. This is one that's a little bit overlooked. I think it's like a 2 year old, maybe year and a half old model from Wii. And that means that there's a lot of models that have come out subsequent to this. But honestly, this one kind of didn't get enough love as far as I'm concerned. And it was one that I wasn't super keen on until it was offered to me in trade. So when I saw this, I was like, you know what? That's a pretty compelling knife, and especially as I looked at some other videos and I looked at some pictures, it kinda grew on me. Alright, so I know you guys are going, "Kevin, shut up and show us the knife already." I will say one thing about this knife is the box is not quite as impressive as some Wii knives, so I just wanted to show you that really quick in case you buy this and go, "Kevin, why didn't you tell me?" All you're getting is just the styrofoam cutout instead of like the box and the pouch and all of that. So that's a little disappointing, but not the end of the world. Here is the knife in question. This is the Wee Curvaceous. And you can see where it gets the name. It's a very dramatically curved knife. This is a Persian style blade with some interesting things going on, right? This is a knife that, um, it has a look that grows on you. I have to say that the first initial reaction to this was like, "I don't really know about this." But the more I looked at it and then when I watched a couple of action shots, I was like, "That is a cool knife." And I will say this, once you have it in person, it's actually even more appealing. Like the videos and even this video does not do this knife credit. This is a really, really good knife. Now, it's definitely a departure for Eric Oakes. You may recall the Orca from it was a collaboration between Eric Oakes, Riot, and Drop. That was a pretty cool knife, a little small for me, but very compelling nonetheless. This is not what we see from Eric all the time, but if all of the features and functions of this are his brainchild, the guy deserves a lot of credit. Okay, because this is a cool knife that's doing some things differently and which I kind of love, especially as I have had time to, think about this knife. And now that I got it in hand, my initial reaction, having gotten this out of the box and flipped it a couple times, is like, wow, this was better than I anticipated from seeing this in videos and pictures. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why that is, starting with the blade. So look at the blade on this. This is a Persian style blade with a compound grind. So this is a hollow grind here in this portion, and then we've got this flat grind out here, sort of like what you see with a Spanto, with a lot of Tanto ground blades. Um, Now the Hinder's Spanto is not hollow ground, but the Curtis knives are famously like that, and a number of others. I have a lot of let's see. I do have a Cold Steel Code 4 right here, and it's hollow ground, which I love, love, love this knife just for that reason, among others. All right, so hollow ground here, meaning it actually does cutting tasks really, really well. And then we've got this full flat, or this flat grind out at the tip, which adds a lot of extra material. Look at the robust tip you get on this knife. It's really, really thick out there, which is great. The other thing I have to say about this blade is the blade stock is great. It's over an eighth of an inch thick, okay, which is very, very appealing to me. I definitely prefer a thicker blade stock. It just makes a knife to me feel a little more premium, a little more confidence inspiring. And I know it's not the trend right now. I know it's this pushing toward kitchen knife style blades in our folders, and I just don't love that. Okay, I prefer something more substantial, and this absolutely has that substantial blade steel. Now, there is one miss here. There's something I'm truly sad about. I think it's a missed opportunity, and that is the bead blasting on this blade. Yeah, I know you're looking at it right now, and the grind is dramatic enough, and the transitions are abrupt enough that you can still see all of those different facets of the blade, and so it looks good and it doesn't lose much. But can you imagine how much better that would look in a satin finish. Like, it would be so dramatic and so striking and so cool, that I really feel like it was a big miss doing the bead blasting on this. All right. Uh, Performance-wise, I'm not that concerned. It's 20 CV steel, so, that I'm not too worried about, but I love the look of this knife. It's such a great looking, cool knife. And every time I look at it, it does in the back of my mind kind of twinges. Just imagine if it was satin. It would be so great. And the blade would be that much more dramatic than it is right now. And it's dramatic now. Okay. So first point of discussion is that Persian compound ground blade with that thick stock. All of that I absolutely love. Next thing to talk about is the action here, and it is very good. We've got a flipper, which is very effective. The D10 is nicely dialed in. I mean, it's a Wii knife, and I don't know, like, if you know anything about Wii knives, the action is as expected. They pretty well always do a great job. We've got a nice plunge grind there, which normally I would save for the review, those kind of more minor details, but it is a pretty obvious, point to draw attention to. So bearing pivot, as we would suspect from Wii knives, very nice action on this. It's sort of a hydraulic feel rather than, oh man, that's so satisfying, and I kind of like that more. It's just a very, oh yeah, so good, just smooth and drop sheddy, very very nice. So uh, pretty impressive in terms of action. The flipper is nice and accessible. It's pretty high up in relation to the pivot, which gives you a little bit of leverage there. It's a bolster lock, which is a great look. All right, you can see that. It's available in a number of different scale options. The carbon fiber to me is by far the best. This shred carbon fiber looks really, really impressive. And, I do think the design loses a little something with there's a there's a JG10 and I think a green micarta. And I don't know, the carbon fiber, as far as I'm concerned, is by far the winner. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous finish for this knife. Single position clip with a really, dramatic, sort of styling to it. However, um, I did drop this in my pocket a couple times in preparation for this, and it goes in and out of pocket so, so well. And then we've got a small lanyard hole here and this slightly proud backspacer, which is nicely rounded, sort of a crowned backspacer. It's not really crowned, it's almost more chamfered. But nonetheless, very, very nicely done. And here's probably the most impressive thing about this knife. When you put your hand on this knife, it just locks in. It feels like it was meant to be in a human hand. All right. And that is such a great feeling. It's rounded and yeah, it just perfectly fits the hand, which is really, really nice. Again, it's something that you immediately notice. As soon as you do this, you're like, wow, this is so satisfying. So that's my rundown. Uh, the big note here is that dramatic blade and the feel in hand is so so good. Should give you the specs before we shut it down, but we're almost done. Let me quickly say 8 and 5/8 inches overall. So this is not a small knife. I should have my para 2 here to share to show you, but no, I don't have it. I've got a code 4. It's kind of the most. Got a code 4, and I've got a military 2. So you can kind of see where that lands size-wise. Fairly substantial knife. We don't see a lot of, at least these days, we don't see a lot of 8 and 5/8 inch folders. 3 3/4 inches of blade. So lots and lots of blade here. 4 and 13/16 closed. Now I will say this, the grip area is a little small. For my hand, it's perfect, and maybe a slightly bigger hand than mine would still be okay. But if you have like, extra, extra large, if you can palm a basketball easily, this knife might actually be too small. But I imagine if that's the kind of hand size you have, most knives are probably too small for you. Anyway, so 3 and 5/8 is the grip area and 5.3 ounces, which again, for this amount of steel and titanium is perfectly expected. Very dramatic, very style forward knife, but it also works. Like, this is a functional cutting tool, so it's a really nice balance. If you're someone who likes to carry a knife that has all the looks and all the style points, this definitely scratches that itch. But if you also demand that that knife is comfortable in hand, has a functional blade, has can do all of your EDC chores really effectively, then this checks that box as well. And I've got to say, guys, I love when that happens, right? I love knives that are, you know, I love knives that are practical, right? We had the military out here a second ago. This is a great knife. It just does its job so well. It's certainly a utility first kind of design. Um, this is not a utility first kind of design, but it's great because you don't have to sacrifice any utility. And that's the big first impression for me. This is a purely knife lovers, design lovers folding knife, but it's one that doesn't ask you to compromise in terms of performance. So, really, really good in that regard. Now, I'm going to come back with a full review in a few weeks' time, and maybe I'll change my mind on that. Maybe I'll say, this blade doesn't work for this or that reason. The tip is a little thick, maybe, and that'd be about the only thing you could possibly say. But that thickness definitely gives you extra strength that is welcomed, as at least as far as I'm concerned, in an EDC knife. So there you go, guys. Those are my initial thoughts on the Wii Curvaceous. Stick around, make sure you like and subscribe, and that way you'll see my full review coming up after I've carried and cut and done all the things that this knife is supposed to do, and I have my full discussion with comparisons and all of that. Don't forget to check those channel sponsors linked in the description. We will talk to you soon.